Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. As said, my name is Sam Adams. I work for Foothills Correctional Institution, which is a close custody facility in Morganton, North Carolina. I've been with the system about 5.5 years. Prior to that, I was a police officer for 21.5. I believe I bring some unique observations and perspectives into the prison system from the street. I'd like to share a couple of those with you. The first, I had several people ask me what the difference is between working the street and working in the prison. My resounding answer every time is exactly the same. My very worst working day on the street, 20% of the population I dealt with, what we call citizen contacts, were bad people. Again, truly bad people. Meaning 80% of the people I dealt with on a day-in, day-out basis were good, solid North Carolina citizens, most of them. Yeah, they may have been speeding a little, they may not have their seatbelt on. Doesn't make them a criminal. Again, so 20% of the people I came in contact with were truly bad people. Every day, those of us here, we walk into a facility, 100% of our people, our citizen contacts, are bad people. They have the commitment papers into the prison system to show it, yet we're not treating them that way. We're not treating them as bad people that they are. I think that needs to change. Secondly, as police officers, we arrested criminals. That's what we did. We took them to jail, we took them to the magistrate's office. They were tried, they were convicted, then they were sentenced as criminals. The moment they walk through our doors, they become victims. They become victims of their circumstance. They become victims of their neighborhoods. That's not what they are. They've made choices. They've made decisions to do the things that they've done. We're not addressing those issues. We're treating them as if it's a social problem. We're treating it as if it's a mental problem, a mental issue. Folks, these are bad people that we deal with. You know, we've had 5 deaths last year. That should be enough to tell us that these are not good people. These are bad people. Some of the things that I believe that we could change, some of our training. I know we have several police officers in the audience. Most of them, I'm most sure, attended BLET in the community college system. The reason that system works very well, and it works as well as it does, the officer that is in the classroom today instructing was on the street yesterday working. They know what's going on. They know what's happening. They're relevant. They're current. Nothing against our OSDT staff. Nothing against them. However, they're not in the facilities on a daily basis. They're not working the floor. They're sitting in a classroom. They're dealing with students day in, day out, rather than learning what's relevant, knowing what's relevant today. They've not maybe been in a facility for 20 years. 10, 15, who knows? They do not know what's happening today. They don't know what's going on in those facilities today. I know that my presentation is a little short, but again, I would like for you to take the opportunity to think about those of us that walk into those buildings every day. 100% of our citizen contacts are bad people. Thank you.
Thank you. So next is Suzanne Beasley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm Suzanne Beasley with the State Employees Association. I will be brief. Wendy Callahan, Sergeant Megan Callahan's mother, wrote a statement and sent it to me last night and specifically asked me to read it to you today. I'm not going to do that. It is impossible for me to convey her heart, and you need to hear from her. So Senator Randleman, thank you so much. Representative Davis, Representative Bowles, for making time for this public comment today, but it's our sincere hope that in the future you can make some time for Ms. Callahan to be heard. We think it's important that you hear from her. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Yes, I'm Officer Izum. I work at Polk Correctional Institution. And I'm pretty much echo what Officer Adams just said. Our department has gotten extremely dangerous in recent years. I've been with the agency about 20 years. well, I've been with the agency a little over 20 years, and within the last, I would say 2 to 3 years, the assaults on staff, and when I first came in, you could barely get an inmate to touch staff. Now it's nothing to touch a staff. I've had one of my trainees recently assaulted. A little girl, about 5 feet, but she defended herself until help got there. But the assaults on staff has been tremendous. And if there's anything, any changes that could be made to make our agency safer, no one at our agency is exempt. The males I work with, they have no problem touching female staff. It's off the chain with what they're doing. And so if anything that you all can do to aid us in that, just support our agency, we welcome it. We welcome it. So thank you.
Hey, I'm Officer Knox at Oversight Correctional. I just wanted to say I work at a minimum unit, and I kind of feel like sometimes the minimum units are like overlooked, but we're dealing with the same type of inmate, and maybe their acts are, I can't get it out what I'm trying to say, but I think a lot of the situations that are going on now are the different generation that we're getting of inmates, and we want to kind of keep people in the same generation that can kind of like relate maybe, and keep everyone up to date on that. And I want to be brief and not say too many things, but they are getting more disrespectful, because I didn't hear anyone else say that, and I agree with my fellow officers on all the things that they had to say, and I just ask for your support in providing funding for safety equipment to enhance safety to our staff. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Tommy Flowers. I work at Beasley. I was not prepared for this, but I have to speak on behalf of my fellow officers, just as well as these ladies and gentlemen over here. I agree with what they were saying. I feel that inmates sometimes have more rights than we do. They can say things and it's like they're right and we're penalized, or they're able to do, it's just relaxed. Y'all, excuse me when I say this, but it's like y'all pacify them and we get the end of it, we get the button. We're in trouble and we're trying to protect public safety. Who protects us? So there's a lot that I can say, so I'll respond with the rest later, but that's it. I'm sorry.
Good afternoon. Thank you for taking time to hear us in corrections. My name is Larry Dale. I've been with the department for 35 years. The first 35 has been in prisons, from a correction officer to a superintendent to an administrator, and a month ago was promoted to an Eastern Region Director with 12 prisons under my command. So I understand prisons. I understand we cannot operate without the support of you guys, and that's what I want to talk about. I really appreciate it. We're in a crunch, and we have a plan to get this ship turned around. And part of that is the visits. At the prison I was formerly at in Craven County, the legislator came in, we talked. There's been emails back and forth, and I can assure you now there has been some major purchase orders issued to buy some of the things that we have to have to make these prisons safer. So with your help, with my help, with these help, with the correction officers' help, we can get this turnaround and made into a safe environment. But it takes us all working together, and I challenge each of you legislators to go out and go into your prisons. Spend some time with them. You will find we are very accommodating, and we welcome the opportunity to show you what we do. The last thing I'll address is we talk about what is going on in prisons, what has changed over the years. When I came to prison, the first year I was there were several inmates killed. So violence has been in prison, but it has branched out into where it's touching the correctional officers more so now. And a lot of that it goes back based on gangs and greed of these offenders that are coming in prison. So that's something we're looking at. We have started talking. One of our main things that we talk about when we meet is safety, security, and control. So as we have ideas, we will be going through the proper channels to get them up for your review. I thank you for your time.
Good afternoon. First of all, I'd like to start by saying I'm pretty much scared to death to be here. When you worked when I first started with the Department of Public Safety, I loved my job. I was there to serve my community, and I really enjoyed my job. I would like to ask, I have several notes here, and I know I'm going to miss something, so my main subject that I wanted to say before I lose my time frame is when a person commits suicide, people always ask the first question is, why? What drove that person to do that? There's not a person in this room that can't tell me they don't know somebody that they didn't say why. Whenever society today, you see every day mass shootings on TV. First thing they want to know is why. What caused this person to snap? Anybody that watches TV can't say they didn't want to know that answer. What I want to say to the committee today is they always say there were red flags that were brought forward that they missed, they didn't act upon. I can tell this committee today, I've got 2 folders that I have been begging for help since 2014. Documents that will absolutely blow your mind. Proof of how employees are how they're treated with the DPS. This is not a story, this is not a hoax. This is the reason I walked away from my job after 10 years. I was here when they done the study, they presented the study. The guys from the prison get up and they say, we follow policy no matter what. Right here is going to show you different. They said, if you cannot go through your chain of command, you can contact the Eastern region, the Western region, the DPS hotline, Human Relations. They give a whole line of people that you can contact. Right here are the digital recordings of every person, every organization that was mentioned. I asked for help, and on this recording, it says, I'm 50 years old and I'm scared to death. And I have yet. 3 days after an incident, I have yet to get an answer. So when these people come forward and tell you they knew nothing of it, I have their voice, I have their name, and I have where they work. Now, with that being said, how many people in this room can say they have been on a yard, locked in a fence, which I have, with 177 inmates and 2 officers? How many people in this room can tell me, when you're taking your tour as a legislator, that you are not being guided around with the posse? and you're being protected. When you walk in that room, first thing I'm gonna ask you is, how many officers do you see? Because you ain't gonna see 3. Start counting them. It won't be 3, it might be like 12. They're gonna put on a show that you ain't never seen before. I said, I've got 2 minutes. My 2 minutes are gonna concentrate on these folders. Then I've showed these documents to some people and they're blown away. I also said in my 2 minutes, I'm going to invite the Associated Press. If this committee cannot look at this and say, wow, the man right here stood and said, this is who you contact, here they are. This is who you contact to prove your point. They won't nobody look at this. I went to 14 lawyers. Whoa, back up. Let me play this for you. Don't play that, I'm obligated. You know what that tells me? That tells me this committee, if you got lawyers that are scared to death of the state, I'm begging you to fix this. I'm begging you to fix this. I got officers who committed suicide where I work. I live with it every day. I said, I need help. On the recording, I'm 50 years old. I need help. Nothing. I wrote a letter to the White House. I got a letter from back from the White House. It says, we sent you a brochure on Stop the Bullying campaign. Are you kidding me? There are some serious problems. The man stood right here in front of this committee. The question was asked by Bob Steinberg. How much of this includes from the supervisor up? How much of that was covered? The answer was none. And I'm telling you right here, 2 folders I can prove. Now, some of the people in this room have seen me. They blew me off. Their name's on this recording. They're going to say, I didn't know nothing about it. Well, when we hit play, you're going to be surprised. This ain't a joke. It's open. I said, here's what I can do. July the 1st. If I ain't heard nothing, I want the Associated Press to handle it because everybody's off for the 4th of July. I love my job. But when my friends are killing themselves because they're being bullied, can't take it. Can't take it. I no longer work. I can't work. I can't watch TV. Watching Oprah Winfrey the other night. Bam, here's a man swinging from a bed, or swinging from a sheet. Inmate got bullied at the prison, put him in the back. He committed suicide. Guess who found him? They want to play games, I pay the price. They took another young officer to the front office, chewed her up one side and down the other. I said, look, I've seen that look before. If you people ain't seen the look of a 1,000-yard stare, you never want to see it. Now, guess what? I do it now. I do it now. I was trying to speak to that young lady. I said, I will do whatever it takes to get you some help. Let me help you. I got a phone call the next morning. Did you hear about the officer? No, what's going on? She shot herself last night. She killed herself. Whenever I come in today, and I'll respectfully say, I have people that were coming with me, current employees. I'm glad they're not here because to me, the intimidation, you're taught when you go through school, you're taught firm, fair, and consistent with all inmates. When I worked with officers and they said, that's a child molester, I said, that's an inmate. He's a human. You're not here to judge him, you're not here to prosecute him, you're here to protect him and all other inmates. That's your job. You're not here to pass judgment. You're here to protect him as well as you. I personally was surrounded the entire block at Alexander Correctional Institute. Had a guy came in. The guy spoke about we're going to work with the National Guard, Marines, whoever we can get in here. Grr. Let me tell you something. The guy's first day on the job, he was a Marine, he was a drill instructor. And he might as well walked in there. It was like a hornet's nest. He said, ladies, the man told you to move. If you don't walk into a room full of inmates that are in there for life and say, ladies, because immediately there's always a guy that runs the block. There's always a guy that charges rent to the guys that are coming in. This guy comes running from the back. He's the one in charge, and he's running at me. The reason he's running at me is because I've done my job. I stepped in front of that officer, and I guarded that officer with my life. I didn't know him. I just met him. He just come in that day. He's a drill instructor. And they said, let me have him. Let me have him. I said, the guy that ran the block. I said, look, let me tell you something. This ain't me and you. This ain't about me and you. I said, I'm going to ask you something. I'm going to ask you to look at who I am. You know me. You've dealt with me for 2 years. I said, I'm going to ask you to turn around, put your hands behind your back, and allow my sergeant, who had came in the room, to put cuffs on you and take you to segregation until you calm down. And he looked at me and he turned around, he put his hands behind his back, and he went to segregation. I said, now I will give you my word right here in front of my sergeant. You've done nothing. If my sergeant doesn't release you in an hour, I will resign. The word in prison is respect. I actually heard it in this room the last time I was here. You play jokes on an inmate. You take one card out of the deck. You take one shower shoe. That's what causes problems, folks. I can tell you right now, I just spoke with Officer Adams. I said, I can tell you how to shut down the yard to where no officer can get in that yard, because if you're gonna fix what's going on with an inmate, you gotta think like an inmate. And I told him how I would do it, and he was blown away. I said, these guys talked about replacing the radios. Let me give you a quick scenario on my thoughts on the radio. Think of a different type radio is what I'm asking. Everybody's state troopers, you always see it's really pretty. I tell the inmates I work for the sheriff's department. They put the radio up here over their shoulder. The guy at the sheriff's department said, why do you do that? And I said, do you really want to know why I do that? And they said, yeah, no. So I done just like it right there. And I took that radio and I had it wrapped around his neck, both jugular veins. And I said, you sure are pretty. And every officer took their radio clip and put it right here. I had something to teach. I had knowledge to pass on, and I had to resign. I had to resign because nobody wants to see this. You guys have a good day.
Thank you, Senator Randleman, and thank you, members of the committee, for allowing us to speak. My name is Artis Watkins. I am with the State Employees Association of North Carolina, and we have been doing a lot of talking to our members who work as correctional personnel all across the state. Just as Representative Steinberg alluded to earlier, you hear the same stories, whether you're talking to someone way into the mountains or as far east as Representative Steinberg is. We've got a little over, I think maybe one more than half of the committees here right now. And we're a bit over an hour into it. And Senator Randleman, I appreciate more than you know the fact that you had public comment at this meeting. You know, Ms. Callahan has been here for, every meeting y'all have had and has been anxiously awaiting that day, and I hate that they had the other death in their family that prohibited her from being here. But there are a lot of people who would come and speak, and that is a big statement to make because people have been afraid to talk. But they would. The problem is they need more notice than this. And apparently, I think it's probably true of a lot of people. Everybody has a lot going on. But I am dismayed. This is a huge issue. 5 people died last year. 5 people died last year. 5 people were murdered last year. We can't say it enough. We just talked about one of them was stabbed this morning in an artery in serious condition. And when we hear these things at this point, we're just kind of blank. This is just what we're expecting to hear at this point. I would beg of this committee that you have a meeting with a lot of advance notice because these officers and these other correctional personnel have a difficult time getting off if they can at all. There's so much mandatory overtime right now from what I'm hearing. And unless people are lying across the state, there's tons of mandatory overtime, and a lot of folks are booked through November. Their calendar's booked for them for work. And so if we can have a good amount of time notice, I think you could get people here to tell you things that would shock you. Since 2011, 12 prisons have been closed. When we stand here and say, I don't know why this is happening, I don't know why we're saying I don't know why this is happening. I want to be clear. Scenic nor our members blame the current legislature. This has been going on. I've been lobbying for 18 years on state employee issues. This has been going on almost as long as that we've seen these things progressing. I don't blame anybody that's running the Department of Public Safety because this has been going on a long time. But moving forward, we are every single one of us to blame. If we don't do everything we can to jump up and down and bring attention to this issue, if you don't do whatever you can to make sure the folks are heard from that work inside, and yes, it's going to be really expensive. Closing those 12 prisons saved us some money, but I can't imagine what it's cost us in payments to inmate families, to inmates, to officer families, to officers, and that's not counting the very real cost of the human lives. It is time to take a very serious look at this. We would ask that you have some sort of select committee appointed. I think there's some of you that are really very dedicated to these issues and would do an amazing job, and we could get a tremendous amount of public input for you. I appreciate all of your time today, and we look forward to talking a lot in the future about this issue.
Greetings everyone to the Oversight Committee and all of the members and people that are here to participate. This is a very big issue. My name is Kobe Crandall. I am born and raised in Clemens County, North Carolina, Hereford. So I have experience, I have lost a personal friend due to what is going on in the prison system. But I would like to kind of speak to the rehabilitative side because I haven't heard no one address that. I think a lot of personal opinion, a lot of the inmates' issue are due to response to how they respond to CEOs, is how they personally feel about themselves and how they personally feel about their future once they leave prison. You know, we do have, I want to say thank you to all for establishing a local reentry council. I think that was a very good idea for you all to, choose to do that. But I would like to recommend that, more support come around the local LRC. Ms. Sullivan and Vincent Gaddy, they're doing a fantastic job, in my opinion, of trying to get that off of the ground and running. So what I would like to see personally, and before you long, is that this body create a collaborative process that lays down the tracks which leads to the success of each individual in pursuit of change. So thank you for your time, and I look forward to seeing what y'all do next.
Thank you.
I'll be real quick. The first thing I want to say after Mr. Holtzclaw's comments are that everybody should know is that prison employees generally, we know about the bad ones that make it to the newspapers. My name is John Schwade, John Schwade. I'm going to ask you to Google that later. Prison employees generally are far more honorable and far more compassionate than anybody would imagine. I was a prison psychologist for over 2 decades, and it was corrections officers and sergeants were the ones who were able to identify the people with the serious mental illness who made it through the screens. Some of them were so ill that they didn't even realize that there was anything wrong with them. Their delusions were real to them. So when somebody asks them to fill out a questionnaire or ask them questions like, do you hear voices? If you asked me if I heard Senator Randleman's voice a minute ago, I wouldn't tell you that that means I'm schizophrenic. A couple quick things. Mr. Dale said earlier that after these tragedies, we look at our disciplinary policies and talked about some revisions that were made, but I have to point out that the revisions that were made, the upgrade of certain offenses that went into effect on January 3rd, 2018, were actually a revision of a disciplinary policy, sans almost all discipline, that went into effect last June 17th, less than 2 months after Sergeant Megan Callahan was murdered. And so the idea that after these tragedies we look at things and make the prison safer, that has not been true for the past year. And I don't question how certain people, if they come up here and say how they operate, I'm in no position to question them. But I will tell you that the dirty tricks involved are mind-boggling. There is a war on staff. I had to put a guy on the floor once, and I did it very gently because I've been lifting weights for 50 years, and I simply picked him up by the back of his jumpsuit and laid him on the floor. And then officers came in and handcuffed him. And I later found out they were all written up because the guy was on the floor. The guy tried to headbutt me. Has anybody here been headbutted recently? If you are, let me know. One of the dirty tricks that's used routinely if they want to get somebody is if there's a use of force, there is often a video record of that, okay? And they will ask the officer then to write a statement, and if their statement doesn't correspond point for point with what's seen on the video, they get written up for falsifying documentation. Well, let me tell you something. 10 years ago in Durham, I stopped a knife assault, okay? And the guy who was pulling the knife, he was trying to assault an old man. He ended up face down bleeding. And afterwards, after I talked to the police, who didn't charge me, I had to ask my daughter what happened. That's how it goes in a real fight. So I want you to carefully consider what the officers are telling you. And one last thing I would ask you, when you get a written report, I know there are new members of the committee, but last February, I sent every member of who was then on the committee an 18-page report in which I predicted much of what's happened, including the increase in danger. We just had the therapeutic diversion unit at one prison closed down, that there's only a handful of inmates left in these TDUs, which were ballyhooed, okay? Not one member of the committee responded, but what did happen is over the last 16 or 14 months, I have been contacted by current prison employees, I'm retired, from all over the state. And there's a lot that they will not say here, and there's a lot I won't say here. I think that Representative Steinberg's proposal that there be a commission or committee with subpoena power is going to be necessary to get to the bottom of it. Thank you.